Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Charity Shop Chat podcast with myself, Charlotte Greenwood.
And with me, Mimi Cartwright. As always, this podcast is powered by the Charity Retail Consultancy, where we help charities maximise their retail performance, build brilliant shop teams, and raise as much money as possible for all their incredible causes. The Charity Retail Learning subscription, in conjunction with the CRA, also provides almost 50 modules of online training specifically for charity shops. So make sure you check it out after listening to this podcast.
So, today we're going to be chatting about a topic that is absolutely central to the success of charity retail, and that is people. More specifically, how volunteers are recruited, supported, and celebrated. I mean, we really literally could not do without them. And we want to talk about how charity shops are increasingly using social media, not just to sell, but to connect, inspire, and grow everyone together.
So, across the sector, volunteer recruitment has been one of the biggest challenges of recent years. But at the same time, we're seeing brilliant examples of charities rethinking how they tell their stories, moving past simple posters in shop windows and into Instagram feeds, reels, and real life human stories that show what volunteering is really like and what they're all about.
So we know charity shops aren't just places to donate or shop anymore. They're really very much considered community hubs, skills workshops, confidence builders. And for many people, volunteering in a charity shop is their first step back into work, education, or social connection, particularly after COVID, as we all know. So the way that we communicate them really does matter.
In today's episode, our guest is someone who has been right at the heart of this shift. He's been helping Fight for Sight charity shops grow their volunteer base and use social media as a powerful tool in recruitment and engagement.
So our guest really understands that volunteering isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. It's about showing that human side of volunteering, the diversity, the flexibility, and the impact it has, and how key it is to attracting new people into our charity shops, which is what it's all about. So he's also supported ambitious plans to grow the Fight for Sight retail estate, opening new shops and creating even more opportunities for people to get involved.
So, grab a brew, turn up the volume if you're listening in a shop, and get ready for some really practical insights. Let's welcome Daniel Franzmann, Volunteer Recruitment Manager for Fight for Sight.
Welcome, Daniel. It's great to have you with us.
Lovely. It's great to be here. Thank you for having us.
So can you tell us a little bit about your role at Fight for Sight and how it connects to the charity retail's operation?
Yeah, definitely. So, like you said, I'm Fight for Sight's volunteer recruitment manager. So I work across all things volunteering for our charity, including our charity shops and our retail division. And we've seen the need for people in our organisation. I think all charities, especially charity shops, understand the vital contribution that volunteers bring to us. So it's been my role to make sure that we have the right number of people, and that we engage with them properly, and we look at how we use them and also what we can do for them on the flip side. So it's a very two-toned approach. We often think about what can you do for us, but it's really important that we also think what can we do for our volunteers. As the demographic of volunteers changes as well, those needs have changed. So it's about adapting to new demographics, new age groups, and making sure that we give a experience that is really kind of engaging for them.
Volunteer recruitment has been a challenge across the sector. What have you done differently at Fight for Sight that helps grow your volunteer numbers, and how much has your volunteering increased by?
Yeah, so for us, I think the big thing is learning about how different demographics look for opportunities. I think if any of us were looking for a job today, we wouldn't go around handing CVs out to shops. We would go online, we'd go on Total Jobs, we'd go on LinkedIn, we'd look at Facebook ads, we'd go to places where the jobs are listed. And I think it's very similar with volunteers now. A lot of people, their first thought when it comes to volunteering is, I will Google where to volunteer in this area. And we want to make sure that not only do we rank highly on those rankings, so they see us forefront and centre, but also when they get to us, they understand a little bit about the day in the life of a volunteer, what that looks like, and it gives them a better idea of what we do before they step into our shops. That's where social media has been really vital for us. So short format reels, we've got an amazing communications team. Our comms team are absolutely fantastic. And they go out with me, they film content. The content can be both serious and silly. So one of the things we recently did was as part of our Christmas thank you to volunteers, we dressed up as Santa and an elf, and we went around all the shops with boxes of chocolates and Christmas cards. That personal touch piece, and it's also great for our socials because we get to post pictures of me on the London Underground in a Santa suit, saying kind of this is our volunteering manager and this is how we support our teams. In terms of growth, we've seen about a 300% growth in volunteers.
300%.
Wow.
Yeah, so
That's
we're
crazy.
really growing our retail team.
Yeah.
We really are doing whatever we can to support shop managers. And also, we've discovered we need more people than ever because people give less time.
Right.
Every minute and every hour they give is absolutely vital to us. And we would never say don't come. But the demographic change has meant that we're attracting people with less free time, but that still want to give. So rather than giving 2 or 3 days a week, half days, full days, they're more likely to be part of like the micro volunteering trend of doing a few hours every week or something like that, either after college, after university, on their day off. So we have to attract more people to fill the same number of hours in the shop. So that's really what we're looking at the minute, is driving numbers rather than driving hours.
Right, that makes
Brilliant.
sense. So what's that 300% look like? Is that like from 20 volunteers to, I'm so bad at maths, what, 70? Is that 300? I don't know, is that 300% uplift? I don't know.
So we're at about 200 volunteers now, just over 200 volunteers.
That's how many shops?
So we have 14 shops, a donations hub, and an e-commerce department, and they support all 16 sites. And we've also got a couple of different volunteers in different parts of the organisation. So my team is made up solely of volunteers, so kind of practice what you preach.
Yeah.
So all of the assistants that work in the volunteering team are volunteers. So we've got a wonderful volunteer, Magdalene. She's my recruitment assistant, so she helps me with all of the emails, the assemble, the communicating to volunteers. And then I've got Emily, who's a communications assistant volunteer, and she helps create a lot of the newsletters and things like that we send out to our volunteers on a monthly basis. So really making sure that we practice what we preach. And I think that's so important in our industry.
Oh, so what is that like? Is that a year-on-year growth in just 1 year, or has that been over
Y-
several?
Yeah, so that's been in 2025. And it's really been driven by the support from our charity and from our CEO, Keith, from our Chief Income Officer, Phil, from our Head of Retail, Will, and by the trustees. So one of the big shifts this year was bringing on a digital volunteering platform. So we've now got Assemble, and that's allowed us to really integrate that platform with our digital reels and things like that to create that more unified journey for the volunteer. So it's not that they see something online and then they have to go into the shop and do something on paper. They can follow that journey straight through. So it's a much easier access to recruitment for them. It's more what people are used to as well. I think in 2025, most of us are used to doing things on our phone. So to break that cycle of doing something on your phone and then having to go and do it in paper, I think it's been really powerful in our ability to recruit more numbers.
Yeah, amazing. I'd say looking at charity retails, or charity in general, social media strategies, there's not one kind of rule book on how it's done. You see some really curated Instagram feeds, but your Fight for Sight's Instagram is, you can tell how much community collaboration goes into that. It just feels like an absolute bundle of joy to scroll through, which is so attractive. So the average volunteer, especially someone who is in college, in university, wanting to get their foot in the door, get some experience, and see what sort of career they want to pursue. So yeah, that is really cool, and I can definitely see how it is that you've been so successful in your volunteer growth. It's
No,
amazing.
we appreciate
Well
that.
done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Guarantee there's going to be people who are listening today just scrawling, writing down notes and kind of making a mental note of how do we get that 300% growth in volunteering, because it is something that every charity retailer struggles with since COVID. So have you also seen the demographic of your volunteers change? Have you recruited more younger people? How do we get different voices in the room, different voices in the shops, different perspectives, different ideas? Have you seen that change with the change in your marketing strategy?
Massively so. So when I came into Fight for Sight, we did have that traditional kind of older volunteer who's retiree and is kind of looking to engage in the community. What we've seen is a dramatic shift in the type of volunteer we're now recruiting. So our average age of volunteer across the charity is now 27 years old.
27.
Wow.
So
Wow.
You're doing it right.
Yes. I like that. There you go. That's your new marketing strapline. 5% are doing it right.
I would like to say I've trademarked that. 5%, please message me. We'll be in touch.
But yeah, we're looking at that demographic shift as well and the reasons why people get into volunteering. So traditionally, it was we saw a lot of the statistics was to make friends, to combat loneliness, to give back something, to be in the community. And that tends to be what an older generation volunteer is looking for. When we look at the younger generation, especially Gen Z, and we talk about the pandemic a lot, and it did affect their ability to access the workplace. So a lot of them didn't have those traditional Saturday and Sunday jobs that we had growing up, that introduction to the workplace, that introduction to corporate norms and corporate responsibility. So what we're trying to do is empower them and give them the skills they need, especially to get jobs in the first instance. Like you said, to get your foot in the door is so difficult now with no experience. You can be incredibly well educated, and a lot of our volunteers are. They're university graduates, they've got degrees, they've got master's degrees, some of them. So they're very, very bright, educated people. They just need someone to give them a chance, give them that reference, and give them some real employability skills. And that's what we're looking to achieve with the young people. And we hear it a lot. I heard it on Sunday Politics with Laura Kunsberg about the people who are not in education or training or employment, the new NEET type young people out there. And how can we empower them? Because they're the next generation of leaders, they're the next generation of charity workers, of third sector workers. So if we don't give them the skills to succeed, it's going to be detrimental to us in the future as well, because they're our next workforce.
Yeah. So I'm just still blown away about 300 volunteers and age 27. Like that's fantastic. Um, so how do you make volunteering feel accessible to people who may never have volunteered before? Is it just Instagram? Has that been your main kind of method of recruitment, or anything else?
Instagram's been a big push for us, but it's also in terms of our partnerships. So partnering with universities, partnering with secondary schools, colleges. There's a lot of people who need work experience. There's a lot of young people, students who are dying to get out and get work experience. And we find that it's actually really difficult for them to get that. It's really, really difficult, especially if you want to place a large number of students. If you want to place 25 of your students on work experience, we're fortunate in that we have quite a few locations so that we can split them across. So we can have a few, 3 or 4 there, 3 or 4 in a different location, 3 or 4 in a different shop, in e-commerce, in our donations hub. But what we find is a lot of the schools are so thankful, a lot of the colleges and universities are so thankful that we're upskilling their young people, because they really struggle to find those places for them in the first instance. So making sure that we're accessible, making sure the community know who we are, using Instagram, using LinkedIn, and our influencers have been fantastic for that as well. So we've got a couple of different charity shop influencers that come into our shops and promote what we do. They want to style themselves, they want to look for great discounts, great bargains on high end clothing, and they post that material on TikTok and things like that.
Mhm.
And what we see is a correlation between when one of them posts and they talk about what Fight for Sight shops are, we'll then see an uplift in applications to us. And when it's the source of the application, it says TikTok. We don't have a TikTok presence. It's just that natural, organic growth in our volunteer base from shouting out about what we do in the community as well.
So have you had to invest to kind of facilitate that? Because I know a lot of charities, they sometimes loan trade or things like that. So obviously with particularly under 18s, you are not allowed to be loan trading with under 18 volunteers, and you have to have advanced DBS checks rather than the basic ones. So have you had to work on putting some investment into that to facilitate that, or did you already have those kind of things in place?
We had a lot of those safeguardings already in place. So our chief income officer, he's a big advocate for Duke of Edinburgh. So we had a lot of that in place before I came into the charity. So that just allowed me to accelerate a little bit, and look at what we offer and how we offer it, and make sure that we market it to the right people. So we're really proud. Last intake for DOV, I think we supported 80 Duke of Edinburgh students with their bronze and silver award, and we'll be looking to do the same this year as well. So building on that base and letting them tell their stories on Instagram as well is really, really powerful. It's really easy for me as a volunteer manager to say, yeah, volunteering's great. It's great fun. We'll upskill you. You'll do these different things. It's more powerful when a volunteer talks about it, as with anything. So they're a more authentic group of people to talk about what they do day in and day out. And I think that's why when we tell those stories, people really buy into what we're selling.
I think it's such a great example of like investing in young people, which is as a young person, I'm a huge advocate for, especially in charity retail. There is so much innovation that comes from Gen Z and the next generation. Investing a bit of money with what your charity have done already, and then really delving into what they have to offer and seeing how much you have expanded and how much you've benefited from that is just like so fantastic. So yeah, it's such a good example of how it's not even taking a chance on a young person. It's like a young person taking a chance on you, really, and like
Most
seeing,
definitely.
seeing how that kind of relationship can develop is just fantastic. We always say that like charity shops and charity retail as a whole, we're so much more than like a retail space. I think if you've ever worked in a charity shop, you know how much you provide to the community that isn't just selling clothes. It's a space for people who may not have a chat for the rest of the week to come and have a gossip. It's a space for young people to come and learn how to get into the real world. And so it's a really, really pivotal part of the high street. And I guess my question is, how do you ensure that flexibility or ensure for different lifestyles and abilities within your volunteer team to ensure that you remain that on the high street?
I think it's tailoring our approach. So looking at the outcomes that volunteers are looking for and making sure that we match what we provide them with those outcomes. So if you're looking to upskill yourself, if you're a young person, especially looking for different opportunities, it's important we teach you a lot. Whereas someone who wants to just give back a little bit of time, someone who's an older demographic volunteer, maybe learning and development isn't so high on their list. Maybe it is they want to go on the till and just interact with customers and have those conversations, like you said, to kind of combat that loneliness, have a nice cup of coffee, meet some people in the shop, have a good relationship with our shop managers and our other volunteers. But for young people, if they're looking to upskill themselves, it's what can we show you that we can put on a CV? So we can show you cash handling, we can show you the till, we can show you merchandising, we can show you all the different facets of a charity shop so that they've got a really enriched experience and they've got something to put on their CV and their personal statement. And once again, at the end of it, making sure they get a reference. So we will give them a reference, we'll give them a professional reference so that when they do go for jobs, they've got that foot in the door and they've got something that's really tangible when they walk in. Then we've got other demographics of volunteers as well. We've got people with additional needs who are looking to kind of develop skills, interpersonal skills. They're looking to kind of challenge themselves a little bit. And we've had some great stories. We've got some great young people. We've got people who came, they're very nervous, they're very anxious. This is their first time dealing with the public, for a lot of them as well. And watching them develop, that's one of the greatest things. It's amazing for the shop manager to watch that. It gives them something to be proud of when they go home as a Fight for Sight employee. It gives me something to be proud of when I watch the volunteers kind of get out their shell and grow and expand. And we can offer them different experiences as well. So we do fundraising, we do events, we do retail. So if you're a retail volunteer, we don't peg you in that little retail volunteer hole. So if we have really exciting stuff come up like the London Marathon or Santa in the City, or if we're doing fundraising, carol singing, we put that opportunity out to all of our volunteers so that they feel part of a wider cause. And there's also something that keeps them engaged a little bit. We've had a great volunteer. I'm sure he won't mind, Thomas. He's an absolutely lovely volunteer. I'm sure he won't mind being talked about. He works in our Kingston shop. He goes on the till. He sells our raffle tickets for the Christmas raffle. He does all kinds of things for the business. And then he came with me to sing carols at Waterloo Station the other Friday as part of our Christmas fundraising. So it's about getting the best out of them. And also, he loves to sing. I would have never guessed Thomas would love to sing. When I put the ask out, they rang me and said, "Oh, yeah, Dan, I'd love to come. I'd love to come." So we came, we had a hot chocolate together, we sang all evening, we raised money for a good cause. And it was just fantastic to see how much that meant to him as a person as well. And to have that belief in himself and that personal growth. It's just amazing to watch.
Yeah, that is fantastic. So are you going to give us a rendition of Silent Night then, Daniel? Are you a
Abs-
secret soloist?
I am the most hideous singer. I went for moral support. I didn't know half of the words. I was looking at them and I was going, "Yep, I know that bit. Well, sing the chorus. I'll sing the chorus."
My bit's coming up and I'm going to rock that bit. This is my moment.
But just not taking ourselves too seriously.
Yeah.
I think that's another thing. I think when you look at a lot of big brands out in the world, especially corporate retailers, they take themselves quite seriously. We like to be fun. We like to be a little bit different. We're a relatively new charity after our merger and after our rebrand. So we have that opportunity to kind of create who we are.
Yeah.
And we're quite young as a demographic. A lot of our employees are quite young, a lot of our shop managers and our volunteers. So let's lean into that. Let's be the fun, young place that you come to learn skills, but also have a great time while you do it.
Yeah, I love that.
Amazing. Where can I sign up?
So what kind of posts perform best then on Instagram or on social media in general when it comes to attracting new volunteers? Because your Instagrid is quite heavily videos, isn't it?
Yeah.
So is that what you find works compared to other charities who are more kind of photos based?
100%. If you look at the majority of time spent on social media now, it's spent on short format videos. So it's Instagram Reels, it's TikTok, and it is YouTube Shorts. So you look at where a lot of people spend their time. I think we're all guilty of it. I think most of the listeners, when you look at Instagram, unless you're looking specifically at what friends have posted, you tend to be on the Reels screen. You're swiping up and down and just refreshing that. And that's the main way that we look at our content. So we're providing content that is going to organically fall into people's feeds, who are interested in secondhand, interested in thrifting, interested in charity in general, and philanthropic side. Obviously, with us being a vision impairment charity, if you've got a vision impairment, we'll come up in your feed quite naturally and organically. So we're engaging in the way that people view content, which I think is really important.
And so, a lot of charity retailers might think, video, that's quite a lot of time and effort to invest in, but you're obviously seeing it pay off. So is it a lot of time and effort? How much resource do you have in your marketing and volunteering teams to be able to kind of do this and do this with enough frequency to make an impact?
I think we're lucky in the fact that we've got a comms team that are very supportive of retail. They're very supportive of what we're doing, and everyone sees the need for volunteering. So, as an organisation, we really see the value of volunteering, and that comes all the way from our CEO down through ELT and through to myself. So, in terms of timing, a lot of it will be mixed visits. So, if I'm going to do a shop visit, if I'm going to spend time with volunteers or shop managers, I can ask someone from the comms team to pop along with me for a couple of hours, film some content while we're there. So it's not that we're taking loads of time out of our diary specifically to do content, it's that content comes organically. I was going to deliver chocolates dressed as Santa if the communications team were filming it or not. So it's
Mm.
about going, what are you doing that's really cool in the next couple of months? What could be really fun and engaging? And just piggybacking on that. And that makes your content organic. It makes it natural. It makes it authentic. And it's more engaging for the viewer as well, we find.
And how easy do you find it to convince volunteers to be on camera? Because I remember in other charities that I've worked for, it was like getting blood out of a stone to try and convince volunteers to appear on camera as a photo, let alone a video.
I think when you look at us as a demographic, especially Gen Zs and millennials, they're very used to being on camera. They're used to being on FaceTime. They're used to being on Instagram. They're used to being on TikTok, those kind of things. So they're really comfortable with being on camera. And also, I think that personal relationship we have with everybody. If you see me make a fool of myself, you're more likely to make a bit of a fool of yourself and have fun at the same time. So you kind of buy into what you see. And I think when you see that we're all having fun, we've got our human resources and ops manager, Joy. She's on videos, I'm on videos. And I think they see that on the Instagram page because they follow us as well. They're part of our community, just like our customer and our shopper. Um, and they want to be engaged in that because they think it's good fun. And a lot of time I go into the shop and they'll go, "Oh, you're the Jammy Dodger guy." Because part of our volunteer onboarding is there's a few training videos where we talk about benefits, we talk about safeguarding, we talk about all different parts of being in our charity shops. And I talk about the fact that I love Jammy Dodgers. And that's why we say there's plenty of biscuits in the shops, help yourself. And they know me based on those little funny things. And I think that allows them to feel more comfortable to be on camera as well.
Yeah, completely. And just to be in the space as a whole, it sounds like, yeah, the environment that you've built through that and through the engagement of your volunteers is just like a very comfortable place to be, which is what every shop should strive to be like. So, in terms of celebrating volunteer diversity in age, background, experience, motivation, how do you do that both online and offline?
I think offline, we're very quick to give praise, and I think you always should be.
Mhm.
I like to think that money, anyone can give money because you can replace money. We can always go to work and earn more money, but time you can't replace. So if someone gives us their time for free, then we really should celebrate that. And it doesn't have to cost a lot to celebrate people. I make this point a lot to people: is if it's their birthday, a small birthday cake and some candles goes a long way. And just being really respectful and that cultural thing is learn something about someone else's culture. When we give a birthday card, if your mother tongue is not English, if it's a different language, we'll write happy birthday in your own language. The little things that show that we care and we learn a little bit about you, and it's a personal relationship. Volunteering is a very personal relationship. A lot of volunteers don't volunteer for a cause, they volunteer for a person, and it's the person that retains them, and it's the way that we treat them when they're with us that gives them that amazing experience, and also that makes them great advocates for us in the future to other friends, family members. And we know that volunteers talk about their volunteering experience, so we have to make sure that we make it a really fulfilling one. And we've got a tagline: "We'll never waste your time." So we're not. You're going to give us your time. We're not going to waste it.
Brilliant.
We're going to make sure that you have an experience that's fulfilling for you, that you give something back to the charity as a whole, which a lot of our volunteers are so excited to do, and that we can honour them as we do it. So little personal touches, handwritten cards. I'm a massive advocate for handwriting Christmas cards, which we did in the office over the last 3 weeks. We handwrit 200 Christmas cards, me and Magdalene. So, but it's those little things that takes a bit of time from you, but it really means the world to the volunteer base. And that's what we're big advocates for. And also communicating, making sure that we do an annual roundup of this is how many volunteers we have, this is the backgrounds they come from, this is the diversity, and being really honest with our statistics as well. We've got people from all different backgrounds, all different ethnic backgrounds, religious backgrounds, LGBT backgrounds, and we make sure that we really celebrate everybody as an individual, because that's what everybody is. They're an individual. They're all fight for sight volunteers, but they're all people in their own rights. So we try and do everything we can in our power to make sure they have a really safe and engaging experience, and they leave with a massive smile on their face. That's the main point for me. And with the young people, we want you to leave. We don't want you to volunteer forever, because you're coming to gain skills and to get paid employment. I mean, we're very realistic with that. If you stay for 3 to 6 months and you learn loads of skills and you have an amazing experience, we can't wait to give you a reference. And if then you've got a bit of spare time from your job, you want to pop back into the shop and give us some hours, we'd love that as well. But we really are progressive in our thought process of what can we do for you to make sure that you have an amazing experience with us, and it's really personal.
God, that's so fantastic.
I know that's really refreshing to hear, really, the whole point of, we don't want you to have to volunteer with us all the time, because it means that we're stopping you from getting opportunities in the paid workplace. Does that mean that you get a bit of a turnover with volunteers, but your numbers remain steady because it's just a steady stream of then recruiting new volunteers? And does that work for you in terms of having to retrain staff or volunteers?
And precisely that. So one of the things we've done is we've made our training a lot more digital as well. So it's much more easy and digestible. So a lot of our training is done via QR codes. So when you're doing rotation on the shop floor, you can get given a little card by the shop manager, and it'll have a QR code on the back. You scan the QR code, it'll take you to a private video on YouTube, and it'll show you how to do rotation. So
Right,
you can watch that
okay.
on the phone, out the back with a cup of tea and a biscuit. You can
Yeah.
come out and go, oh, I know I need to get the Hessian bag. I know I need to take off this item or that item. And you know how to do a task without it being very time consuming. Because as we do get that churn, and that's a
Yeah.
natural churn we're going to have, we're going to bring more volunteers in, they're going to leave, we're going to replace them. It does mean that the shop managers do have to do more training and development,
Mhm.
but how can we make it really accessible and easy for the shop manager?
Yeah.
So giving them a big book and a manual that takes a lot of time out of their day.
It's so off-putting, isn't it? It's a massive barrier to volunteering. That the stat man training that some charities have for volunteers, and it's like, dude, they're coming in for a 2-hour shift like once a month. Are we really going to ask them to complete like a 80-page booklet of training? So, what does your training look like? Is it really bite-sized? And if they aren't capable of using QR codes, how do you make that accessible?
100%. So all of our training is digital videos. We've loaded it all on to assemble for them. We've also got an offline version that shop managers can use in the shop, but it is all digitalized. So the idea is you watch videos, you learn from the video. It's very bite-sized. They're 3 or 4 minutes long, and it's how we're used to learning. If you had to change a tire on your car today and you didn't know how to do it at the side of the road and you didn't have the AA,
YouTube.
exactly.
Yeah.
The first thing you do is YouTube. If I need to change a toilet seat at home and I don't know how to do it, the first thing I do is how do I change a toilet seat on YouTube? So we're really used to, especially the younger demographic, of learning via short format videos. And it also means that if you didn't understand something, you can rewind it 30 seconds and watch it again. So it gives you that ability to learn at your own speed. So you can blitz through it if you're really kind of quick with it and you love technology and you just bish bash bosh, I've learned all of that in half an hour, amazing. If you need to rewatch something, if you're a slightly more practical learner, you can watch it and then go do the task on the shop floor. And it allows people to kind of manage their own learning and development at a pace and at a time that's good for them, which is really powerful for us, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And for them as well, like to feel empowered enough to can take responsibility as soon as they are on the shop floor, I think is really empowering for a young person, because they don't need to feel like they are, which I'm sure you don't make your volunteers feel like this, but like sometimes when you're in a new environment, you can feel a bit of a burden asking so many questions, but you are wanting to ensure you get things right. And so although it is like, yeah, definitely moving from the norm of training volunteers, it's moving with the times, and I think that is so vital and really a really good way of teaching people. So,
No, thank you.
so Fight for Sight has very ambitious plans to grow its retail estate. What can you tell us about that in terms of its expansion?
Yeah, so for us as a charity, we're always looking for new opportunities. I think in the challenging environment in the third sector at the minute, fundraising, retail, it's tough. It's really tough out there. So when we look at opportunities, we're looking at how we can not only increase our income, but increase our footprint. So we are a London-based charity at the minute. We are quite a medium-sized charity, a small to medium-sized charity. So not everybody knows who Fight for Sight are or what we do. And I think part of having a retail estate, when you look at a lot of the larger charities, is people's foot in the door to understanding who you are, what you do, the research that you do, the community work you do. We've got community boards in all of our shops that talk about where the money that's spent in our shops goes. And I think part of increasing our retail footprint is also part of cementing ourselves as a brand and as a charity to ensure that we go into the next 5 to 10 years as a slightly more household name. When you think of charities off the top of your head, we probably don't roll off the tongue. And that's what we really want to change. And part of that is increasing revenue. So it's increasing income. Obviously, the slightly larger footprint means you have more customers, you have more donors, and you have more opportunity to make money, which is why we're all in the game. But it also allows us to be slightly more well known as a charity, especially outside of London, because we are very London heavy at the minute. A lot of our work, a lot of our social work, especially the kind of social projects that we fund, are outside of London. So it makes sense that our footprint kind of follows that as well.
And what excites you personally most about the future of Fight for Sight Retail and that expansion?
I think the most exciting thing is we get to impact more people. I think with anything, we are all in the third sector because we care about our cause. We have got some incredible senior leaders in our business who are directly impacted by the work we do, and hearing how authentically they talk about Fight for Sight and our mission to save sight and change lives. I think that's something that we want to spread the message about. So I think for me, the most exciting thing is not only that we get to upskill volunteers in different places and we get to be a community in different places. It's about the fact that we can really catapult our funding for the vital work that we do. And I think that's at the heart of what we all do as charity people, is making sure that we can really push that cause forward going forward.
And so as you plan to grow and obviously grow outside of London as well, because actually a lot of your work you do is outside of that, what are your plans to change your marketing strategy then to recruit volunteers, or are there plans to change your marketing strategy, or are you going with the, it's not broken, don't fix it?
I think for us, it's not broken, don't fix it. So we're seeing that what we're doing is fresh, it's dynamic, and we'll continue to do that. I like to live by the sword and die by the sword. So I feel like what we're doing is really almost unique in the
Yeah.
target demographic that we go after. And I think that those opportunities will present themselves in other places as well.
Yeah.
I think there's plenty of schools, there's plenty of colleges,
There's young people everywhere.
there's young people everywhere.
Funnily enough.
And actually, outside of London, they're probably struggling more,
Yeah.
to be honest, because there's less employers, there's less businesses, there's
Yeah.
less
Point.
there's less opportunity for someone. If you go to smaller towns, smaller cities, it's even more difficult to get your foot in the door because you're up against a base of a lot of people with skills and with experience who are trying to get jobs, and you're trying to get your foot in the door. we want to kind of open those opportunities out to everybody. So I think that's really powerful as well.
Yeah, I'd say that is really important as someone who's from the north. There is so much space needed for career development and also like community space as a whole. Coming down here, I've recently moved to London, and coming down here, it's been really exciting to see how many jobs that I never ever thought are available. And that is really exciting and inspiring, but isn't the same amount of inspiration. Um, because everything seems a little bit less accessible up north, due to a whole variety of reasons. But yeah, being able to expand and to have this whole kind of driven by the community, for the community, by the community, and picking up and helping loads of young people where you can is something that, yeah, definitely needs to be expanded outside of London. So that's very exciting. For sure.
So we've talked a lot about the positives of volunteering, which, there are loads. But what's the other side of volunteering?
Yeah, I think a lot of charity organisations have more volunteers than paid members of staff.
Yeah.
That's true for us. It's true for a lot of the larger charities as well. You have a substantial volunteer base and you have a substantial number of opinions. But it's about making sure that everyone's opinion's heard.
Yeah.
So we're quite reactive to what we hear, because the feet on the ground are important to listen to. But we also make sure that we do so through the right channels. So a big thing for us is engagement surveys. So asking people their opinion, because if you get ahead of it, if you give someone the opportunity to talk, they will talk. If you don't give someone the opportunity to speak, that's when you create an environment where you get letters to the CEO, or you get letters to trustees, or you get letters to senior leadership. So it's about making sure you listen to those voices in the first instance. But it's also about being really clear with the expectations as well. Like, we make decisions for a reason, but taking people on that journey. So I will never just tell somebody it's red because it's red, because that doesn't help them to understand the decision making process. And if you've made a decision that you can't explain to somebody else, then the decision was not a good decision in the first place. That's something I've always believed in,
Yeah.
which is making sure that you explain to somebody, we've done this. It might cause some friction because we've always done things a certain way and now we're changing it. But there's a reason behind it, and taking them on that journey and showing them the positive outcomes of change. And it's the same with any kind of change management. When you deal with paid staff or volunteers, change management can always be a difficult thing to deal with. But for us, it's about making sure that we explain. So always explain to somebody why we're doing something, so that they feel like they're involved, even though the decision's been taken outside of the volunteer role. They can understand, oh, like, my books department is getting smaller, or
It's always the books. I keep hearing it's always the books. They love
Yeah,
their
save the
books.
or we're changing the way we merchandise, or we're changing the way we lay out shops, or we're doing so because we're a commercial retailer. So as much as we're a community space and we're a charity, we're also trying to make money.
Yeah.
And a lot of the volunteers, sometimes they forget that,
Yeah.
but it's us just bringing that to the forefront of their mind, and then using the statistics we have and the data we have to inform decisions. So we can say, actually, since we changed the books from 6 meters to 3 meters and we put in 3 meters of extra brick, we've taken more money.
Yeah.
And that's the whole name of the game, is to take more money so we can fund more research and fund more community projects. So I think taking them on that journey is so important. And I think the way we communicate with them and treat everybody as an equal.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter your job title, it doesn't matter your role.
Yeah.
If you would explain it to the CEO to get approval for it, you should explain it to the volunteers to get their buy-in to action it in the shop. Because without them and without the shop managers, doesn't matter what we say at head office or what we say as a leadership team, it doesn't get actioned. So it's really important you take people on that full journey and explain it the same way up
Yeah.
as you would down.
That's a good way of putting it, actually. Yeah.
Giving people insight is important.
Yeah. So what advice would you give to other charities who are struggling with volunteer recruitment right now? And perhaps, they might not have the same demographic as London. What would be your advice in kind of stepping up their game with volunteers?
I think you've got to look at low hanging fruit if you're really struggling. So what can you do in terms of partnerships? So a volunteer manager, we've seen in the survey that came out this year about volunteer management, recruitment's a real big issue for a lot of volunteer managers. It's something that's on the top of the agenda, and it's something that a lot of them are struggling with. So I think look at how you can make best use of your time. So a lot of us, we're guilty of kind of being busy fools, which is, I'll stand in a shop for 7 hours, I'll speak to every customer and try and get them to volunteer, I'll give out leaflets. You might speak to 100 customers. That's great, but you're not going to get 100 volunteers from 100 for 100 conversations. We know that. So it's, can I do something that day to make an impactful partnership that's going to drive people into the top of the volunteering funnel? So that might be speaking to a college, it might be speaking to a university, and it might be doing that connection to cause piece as well. So for different charities, finding local businesses or local schools that might be really inclined to support what the charity does. So if you're, I don't know, a medical research charity, go and speak to a local NHS trust. Get your foot in the door with people that are really going to be able to advocate for your cause and get the volunteers with you. And I think when we look at volunteer recruitment as a whole, being a little bit more digital can be really helpful. And I think we find a lot of volunteer managers struggle because they're maybe not the most digitally savvy people in the charity. But find someone who is really digitally savvy. Find someone of a younger demographic in your organization that can help you engage with people. It might be writing blog posts. It might be going on LinkedIn. It might be doing things just a slightly different way, just to see who comes to you to make best use of your time. Because I think otherwise you're constantly in that churn of trying to physically recruit, and that's a really difficult thing to do in 2025.
What's your favourite story about volunteering that you have from Fight for Sight?
Oh, that was a very good question. I think it's when I walk into a shop and a shop manager says, I can go to the toilet whenever I want. Being really realistic, or I can pop upstairs and have a sandwich. It's those little things when you go, wow, we take it for granted. We take that ability for granted. I can pop out and go to the toilet or go to grab something to eat, have a cup of coffee whenever I want.
Yeah.
If your kitchen is on the second floor and you're downstairs, you're not having a cup of coffee until a volunteer comes in unless you want to close your shop.
Yeah.
And our shop managers don't want to close our shops because they love what they do.
Yeah.
So it's hearing those stories and hearing how empowered the shop managers become through the volunteer base. I think that's been one of the most pivotal things for me.
Yeah.
And at CRA conference a few years ago, the Trinity Hospice leader said something very similar, which is they walked into the shop, they saw them tagging at the till, and they weren't very impressed. But then the first thing the shop manager said to the leader was, "Oh, would you mind covering the till so I can go to the toilet?" And you suddenly get that real human version of it, that we're not all in boardrooms, we're not all sat at a laptop all day. Some of us are really there in the retail estate every day, working very difficult under very difficult environments. So I think that's the best thing for me, is to be able to go, wow, we've got volunteers, we've got support for people who really need it. And that's something I go to bed every night going, I'm thankful that we've managed to change the lives of not only the volunteers but the shop managers as well.
Absolutely. I mean, they work tirelessly, don't they?
100%.
You're not exaggerating when you say people don't get a chance to have a loo break or a lunch break, and because they're just always on it. They're on the shop floor, they're in the back room, and they're just constantly working hard to put money in the till. So yeah, really good point.
It's that like mutual respect as well, which goes a long way with obviously volunteers and shop managers. As again, from someone who has volunteered for a lot of their like younger life, to be able to have that responsibility and respect, if you've never worked on the shop floor before or you aren't paid to be there, that respect kind of carries you into having the confidence to go through the next stages of your life, whatever career you decide to take.
Most definitely.
Yeah, so that mutual respect is key, and great for when you need a brew.
Definitely.
So that's been a really good conversation about volunteering, really. I mean, there's a really strong message here about kind of storytelling on social media, that volunteers aren't just a workforce. They're people with stories, motivations and real potential. And I really love the fact that you said, we might not be able to hang on to them full term because they are going to go on to bigger and better things. But you're really proud. You seem really proud that you've been a pivotal stepping stone in their journey. And I love that. And when we show that kind of authentically on our feeds and things like that, it changes who feels welcome in our shops then. So it gets people onto the shop floor, and that equals money in the till.
And I think our conversation has been a great reminder about the power of social media, and that it isn't just sales, it's forming that fantastic connection, which sometimes can get lost with social media. So it's bringing that back and having that connection and like a human touch within social media is fantastic. And how how important social media is to support growth, resilience, and long-term sustainability within a charity.
So if today's episode has got you thinking differently about volunteer recruitment, if you want that 300% growth year on year on volunteers like Daniel and Fight for Sight, and you want to look at shop storytelling or social media strategy, then the Charity Retail Consultancy can definitely support you. So give us a shout and we can help you with everything from volunteering strategies, shop growth, marketing, digital and retail training. And please, for the love of God, let your shop staff have a lunch break and a loo break. They need to wee, people. They need to wee.
So now is our favourite segment of the podcast. So we're asking you, Daniel, if you have a shop shout out. So this can be a charity shop, a charity retailer, or a singular volunteer person that you work with. We basically want to provide a platform to talk about charity retail's unsung heroes.
Oh, I wasn't expecting this. You have to give me a second to think.
The one question that stumped me today.
Yeah.
It is that everyone finds it the hardest question, and I completely agree.
It's like asking who your favourite child is. That's what my area manager Jane always says. She's like, I can't, I love them all.
No, that's exactly how I feel. I mean, we're one big community and we're one big family, so it's hard to single out any particular person. But I would actually probably say, if I had to single out one shop, it would be our Kingston upon Thames shop. So Marta, the shop manager, does absolutely fantastic work with Emma, her assistant manager. They're a 3-floor shop, so they've got two floors for customers and 1 floor for themselves. So they operate a very difficult style of charity shop. As we're aware, it's always nice when you're on 1 floor. But I think the work that they're doing in their community, the work that they're doing for their volunteers, and the growth in their volunteer team, that's not driven by me. That's driven by Marta and Emma, because they're fantastic people. And if I wanted to volunteer, I would love to volunteer for someone like that. Someone who really cares, someone who gets it, is empathetic, and is just so grateful for every minute and every hour. So I think that their team of volunteers are fantastic. But the shop team there are just, head and shoulders incredible with people. And that's one of the things that makes me so proud to be the Fight for Sight volunteering manager.
Amazing. Big shout out, Marta, and big shout out, Emma.
Daniel, thank you so much for joining us today. It really struck me when you were talking is that you really know the shops. It sounds like you're out there all the time. You know the staff. Their names roll off your tongue. And I think it was my old ecom manager, Martin, who said, you can't recruit for volunteers behind a desk.
Yeah.
You have to be out there, in person, talking to people, because it is that human to human connection. And I've really kind of got that from you just from talking to you on this short podcast episode. So I can imagine you're a very big instrumental part on why those volunteer numbers have grown. So, really well done for that. It's been brilliant to hear how Fight for Sight is putting people community at the heart of your retail growth. So to all our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, please follow the podcast, leave a review and share it with someone who works or volunteers in charity retail.
You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook and LinkedIn at the Charity Retail Consultancy. Where can we find you, Daniel? Where can we find Fight for Sight?
So you can see Fight for Sight shops on Instagram, on Facebook and on YouTube. And Fight for Sight has got the general page as well, so Fight for Sight UK, once again on Facebook, Instagram and YouTube. And a lot of our staff members are on LinkedIn. So if you want any hints, tips, best practices, please reach out to either myself, human resources, marketing, or the retail directors. More than happy to share best practice. We're in it together as a sector. So please reach out.
Oh, amazing. That's fantastic. That's all from us today. Thank you so much for listening.
And charity retail is full of stories that deserve to be told. And as always, we have loved sharing them with you today. So goodbye, everyone.